gentlemen, and welcome to Not Replaced Yet Office Hours. My name is Nick Bushkar, and I'm here with my brother Jesse. Say hello, Jesse.
Hello, Jesse.
All right, welcome to Office Hours, the show where we do the daily rundown of news. And if you wonderful people are watching, we take your questions about all things AI, automation, future of work, etc., etc. And please, if you are here, thank you so much. But please like, comment, share, and follow. We need people to subscribe, make sure you don't miss anything. And really, if you know anyone who might be interested in this, tell them, tell a friend, tell a colleague. We think that this information is really interesting and important for the future. Jesse, I'm sorry we missed yesterday. How's it going, man?
It's good.
Had to miss yesterday, but we're back.
It's good. Back. Going to get caught up. 2 days of news, I think. Let's jump into the news right away.
I like it.
And you had that email Corey sent us. We were going to
Yes.
kind of mix in.
Dive into that.
Yeah.
So we'll get into the news, and we're going to do a little magic behind the scenes here because we need to cover yesterday's news too. So bear with me. All right. Today is Wednesday, May 7th, and let's begin with a major move from the U.S. government. The FDA is going all in on AI, announcing that all centers will integrate generative AI tools internally by June 30th. The agency says this will speed up drug approvals by offloading repetitive tasks and allowing scientists to focus on real science. The pilot program showed enough success that full deployment starts immediately. And according to Wired, the FDA has even met with OpenAI and Elon Musk's government team.
Meanwhile, President Trump is rolling back Biden-era export restrictions on advanced AI tech. The move, which rescinds what was known as the AI diffusion rule, could be a win for chip makers like NVIDIA, who've been limited in their ability to sell overseas. Critics say it opens the door for China to access cutting-edge models, while supporters argue it restores competitive freedom.
And Yale's Digital Ethics Center is stepping in where Congress hasn't. With no federal AI laws in place, states are taking matters into their own hands, and Yale is helping them write legislation that balances innovation with ethics. It's an unusual role for an academic center, but one that could shape how AI policy is made from the ground up. Their biggest concern, making sure the future isn't dictated by either corporate profit or political inertia.
In other news, a new report reveals that OpenAI expects to cut the amount of revenue it pays Microsoft by 2030. We'll see how Microsoft feels about that. Right now, every time you use ChatGPT or make an API call through OpenAI's models, OpenAI gives a cut to Microsoft, who hosts their models on Azure. But over the next 5 years, OpenAI is planning to build out its own infrastructure and reduce its reliance.
And Meta has launched a new AI tool that creates video ads automatically. It lets businesses quickly generate different versions of an ad based on things like age, interests, or location. Meta says it helps make ads more relevant and saves time for advertisers. But as AI becomes more involved in content creation, some experts are raising concerns about how personalized ads could be used and where the limits should be.
And finally, IBM says forget prompts, code your AI instead. At its Think 2025 conference, IBM unveiled a new system called generative computing. Instead of relying on vague prompts, developers define AI behavior through structured, rule-based programming. The result, smaller models that perform like giants, better security, and more predictable results. They even demoed quantum computing breakthroughs, simulating molecules that classical computers couldn't touch. IBM says this is the start of a new era, one that fuses AI, HPC, and quantum into a single platform. And unlike some hype cycles, and this is IBM's stance, these systems actually work. We'll see how that goes.
And that's all for yesterday's news, and we'll move right into today's. Today is Thursday, May 8th, and we start on Capitol Hill, where top tech leaders laid out their AI wish list to Congress. CEOs from OpenAI, Microsoft, AMD, and CoreWeave told senators that America's lead in AI is at risk without serious investment in its infrastructure. They pushed for better export policies, more data centers, and even workforce training, calling AI a national priority in the face of China's growing presence. Microsoft President Brad Smith said it bluntly: the #1 factor in this race is whose technology gets adopted globally. And with China's DeepSeek offering a powerful, cheaper model, the stakes are only getting higher.
Yeah, that message lines up with the new push from OpenAI to partner with governments. OpenAI is launching a global program to help countries build their own AI infrastructure with a focus on democratic values. They're not just thinking about compute, but also education and public services, starting with health and learning applications. Sam Altman called it a way to align national priorities with the AI era as nations scramble to catch up with the tech. From government to military now, the U.S. Marine Corps has published its official AI roadmap. The document outlines key priorities like smarter logistics, autonomous systems, and battlefield decision support tools. It also lays out timelines and benchmarks to track progress. The takeaway, the U.S. military isn't waiting for the perfect AI, it's building it into operations right now.
And let's shift into the private sector now. Amazon just unveiled warehouse robots with a sense of touch. The robot named Digit can feel objects using sensors in its fingers, allowing it to move more like a human and less like a forklift. Amazon said this could improve efficiency, reduce injuries in its fulfillment centers, but it also signals the company's deeper investment in AI-powered automation.
Yeah, and one quick heads up for chatbot users. A new study says shorter prompts can lead to more hallucinations. Researchers found that when people ask for super short answers, like a few words or a sentence, language models are more likely to invent facts. It's a reminder that prompt quality and answer length aren't just preferences, they can shape the accuracy of what you get.
And that's all for today's top headlines in AI. And as a quick shout out for all of you amazing watchers right now, that last piece of advice about shorter prompts leading to more hallucinations is a perfect segue into our newest episode about the top 10 mistakes that beginners make using AI. Please go check that out on YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you get your fine podcasts, all that good stuff. Yeah, there's actually, Jesse, I will say a lot of interesting information that we kind of covered. I mean, I think the FDA story is really interesting, that they ran a pilot program and found it so good that they're rolling it out immediately in June. That's super cool. I think, of course, all of the sort of global restrictions and the federal government stances, and then also the corporations pressuring them in the ways that they want to be pressured or they want them to go, is very important, and it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. You have OpenAI trying to shift a little bit away from Microsoft. That's cool, but I think, the IBM thing is really cool to me. Like code to your AI instead of prompting it. That's a cool, as a developer, I like that.
Right. Yeah.
That's me talking my own book.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about, like you said, you queued it up beforehand. So we had a friend, Corey, email us a take from the updates in Meta that that I talked about earlier, about how Meta has launched a new AI tool that creates its own video ads automatically. And so our friend emailed us, and along with that email, it came with a take from someone that he knew, and it was you had a reaction to it. But I kind of want to cue it up to you, so you just like imagine if you never heard it, right?
Yeah.
So here's how I see it. Meta is a platform that sells ads. That's where they make most of their money. And by selling their ad, then they have customers who want to place ads. And there is a middleman, and the middleman is either small to very large marketing agencies. Maybe a freelancer who they get off of Fiverr, all the way up to multi-million-dollar contracts, to the biggest ad agencies in the world. So Meta now has all these generative AI tools, and they say we can create images, video, voice over speech, characters, consistent characters, avatars to create something, and they have all the data that says all these people that you're targeting, we can make 50 different ads and A/B test them as we go along, instantly, and give you all this feedback. So to me, one, it makes the most amount of sense. Two, what it does to me is if they can do it in a cost-effective manner, which I'm assuming they will, maybe even they subsidize it up front, it's going to cut into especially the low-end creation. It's going to hurt your Fiverr freelancer crowd that's trying to come into the world of digital marketing. And then if you have your AI-forward companies who are like, okay, well, I heard about this thing. Let's maybe push 10, 15% of our ad creative over to the AI. Hey, big multi-million-dollar corporation who's been making our ads, we still want you to do it, but we want 15% to be, AI created from Meta. And so to me, it's kind of a similar trend. It's something that makes sense. It's a similar trend to other things where it's not taking over the entire industry, but it's going to eat into some amount of jobs in this space. And then over time, it'll eat into more and more and more and more. Thoughts?
Well, that's certainly what Meta wants to happen in this scenario. They want to, You have to look at what advertising platforms want. There's a couple perspectives. What do advertising platforms want? And then how do advertisers make the decisions that they make? So the platforms, first and foremost, they want to dominate the ad spend. The company is going to invest X dollars in total media spend. And just before we say this, like my agency, our agency will place 7 figures of media into Meta in the next 12 months, you know, in this calendar year, however you slice it, right? So we see it firsthand every day, like what the decisions are and what the platform optimizations are aiming to do for the advertisers. If you take Google, Google wants your entire pie chart of their media budget to go to Google. Meta wants the same thing. Smaller players, Pinterest wants the same thing. They would rather you spend all your money with them than some of your money or none of your money with them, right? Just pretty basic incentive economics.
Yeah.
So Meta says, we're going to launch this tool and you don't need to use any other tool. We're going to be your one-stop shop is what it is. Save money, save time. That's what they've been promising with every feature they've launched since they launched the platform, is bring your entire budget to us for X, Y, and Z, right? So in general, nothing has changed. In the specificity then, you have to look at what motivates advertisers to make a decision like this. And in my mind, I bucket it, maybe there's more striations here, but I bucket it into sophisticated advertisers and unsophisticated advertisers. And I don't mean unsophisticated in a negative light, but a small business without a marketing department is an unsophisticated advertiser in general, right? So we, as sophisticated advertisers who represent our clients, we put a lot of thought, and the client side advertisers do as well. We put a lot of thought before we ever get to a platform into what our campaign messaging is going to be, what the creative is going to be, what we're going to create. We create the video, or a series of videos before oftentimes we know that it's going to run on platforms A, B, and C and not B, D, and F, right? And so for Meta to say, we're going to solve every bit of your creative, though that won't impact serious, sophisticated advertisers who are investing in the strategy before they make their placements. In fact, media planner is a higher position at an agency traditionally than a media buyer. And so you separate those responsibilities. Now, will some people use this, especially in unsophisticated crowd? Yes, they will. Will it work? Sometimes maybe yes, sometimes maybe no. And so I think they're starting to eat into the smaller freelance creative space, but I am like a couple light bulb moments away from believing that that's going to make a real impact. I just haven't seen something that I think is like a couple pushes of a button gets you top-notch creative worth using as, at like some level of investment. So we'll see. But I think that's who it hurts, is the smaller players. And I think I would bet Meta has an extremely modest goal for their adoption. Like if they got 3% of their unsophisticated advertisers, and by the way, they do categorize advertisers. They don't tell you what your category is, but like if you're spending $300 a month, you are in a bottom tier advertiser group, and they identify you and label you as such internally. If they could get 3% of the ad creative from that unsophisticated group, I bet it's a wild success, because it means millions and potentially down the road billions of dollars. So I think, yeah, they're going to have a lot of pomp and circumstance around, hey, we're going to do everything for everybody, and it's great. But these platforms are playing a game of inches. Google can get 1%, that's huge. Meta can get 1%, that's huge. And they're fighting for those single digits, and that's like the reality of what the shift will be. That's my take on it.
I will say, I view this as a question of only time. To me, it's like, we've talked about recently how, what is a zombie job? And a zombie job is something, we gave those 4 attributes, right? What was it? Text dominant, repetitive, low stakes, and low context. All right? And so we then we took some jobs or some like sort of like industries, or rather, I guess, types of media creative. And we said, okay, well, image creation is mature enough in AI that we've seen it start to eat into Shutterstock, and we know your feelings, and like other things, like certain types of photography and whatnot, and it's eaten into that some amount. And then same thing with Suno, and same thing now with video generation. But when we got to video generation, we said, well, it's not mature enough yet. We haven't seen it really eat into jobs quite yet, but we just believe it will, because obviously it's going to, because of the way that it has already happened with media generation and whatnot. And so the idea, to me, when I think of the media, what is creating media, but like creating an idea for the execution of what it is that you want to, like if you're creating an ad for a company, the thing that Meta needs to be very good at is the idea phase. Is this idea good enough, like, to get the result that we want it to get, right?
Yeah.
And then that idea, then through that idea, they have it's like a pyramid. You have an idea at the top, and then you move down to different points where, okay, that idea creates images of a storyboard, and then those images of a storyboard, we have a script, we have a text script, and then we create the image to video, and then we create so on and so forth. You see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
like how, whatever pathway they would take, whatever structure they would take to create their ad. But if the idea is not good enough, well, like we believe image generation is currently really great. We believe voiceover text is really great. We believe, and so then the question is maybe the script creation good enough is where it's lacking right now? And then in the idea, I do mean like, what are they considering? Like they have more data, their AI is combing over their Llama, their internal Llama instance is combing over all the data they have of who they're trying to target right now. And they're saying with all this data, here's the idea that we think, or here are the 50 ideas that we think are interesting for this. And then that triggers the AI generation of the thing, the image or the voiceover or the song or the whatever, or the video, right? And then they place it, and the placement is with their current AI, how they place their ads anyways for the targeting. So it's like, where in the stack is it, to me, almost the more sort of like, I'm rambling because I'm coming up with this off the top of my head at the moment. The question is like, it's a letter grade or something. This part of the stack is A+. Image generation, A+. They're fine with image generation if they need to be. But the ideation, the initial idea that is going to actually create a sale might be C right now. And then the video generation is a B, or so on and so forth. You see what I'm saying? And so what they're trying to do with every upgrade of Llama, because I'm assuming it's all Llama for them, right? Yeah. Every upgrade of their Llama that is going to do this, can they nudge the idea generation up to a B from a C or whatever? And the question to me is when will they all get to A? It's not this year. Is it 5 years? And when they all get to A, how much of the market do they take?
Yeah, I agree with that, but I do think it's a little overly reductionist or oversimplified to, that's happening at scale, and that scale introduces a lot more complexity, and then it becomes a lot less straightforward. Here's an example. So at my old agency job, we were spending we're spending 7 figures now. We were spending 8 at least at that stage. And so we were spending enough in 2018, 2019, maybe pre-COVID, for Facebook to fly a rep. It was pre-Meta. It was still, the company was called Facebook. So they flew a creative representative down from, I think he was in their Chicago office or something, but he came down to Hilton Head, South Carolina, and we all got in a big boardroom, and he gave us a presentation on what creative is best for social media advertising, right? And he truthfully gave one of the most generic presentations that I could have ever anticipated. And you know what he did when he left? And we had clients that were large restaurant groups, large beverage companies, large insurance companies. I'm not going to name drop them, but when he left our agency, he flew to another agency who had similar competitive brands, and he gave the same overly generic advice and presentation, and like, people have short attention spans, make sure the ads flash at them, make sure the text is big and bold, right? These extremely generic recommendations. And for me, the aha moment was like, okay, they can't favor anyone. They can't give us a leg up that they're not giving equally to someone else, because they're not representing us, they're representing themselves, and we're just a customer. When I play that out algorithmically, I think of 5 different sunglass companies. And the 5 different sunglass companies, so it's Gooder and Knockarounds and whatever else brand, there's a bunch of sunglass companies. And they're so easy to map commerce conversions, right? E-com, direct-to-consumer company, and work pipelines are super easy, because you just have this very clear funnel of like, awareness is an ad impression. Consideration is a click, intent is an add to cart, conversion is a purchase, right? And so let's imagine 5 sunglass companies turn their creative campaigns over to Meta, and they say, cool, you have the latest and greatest AI optimize for conversions, because we already, when we buy those ads, we tell them what to optimize for. And that is, like, how does one give a leg up to one of those 5? I just see this like standardization of the output that is either it wins and everybody sells more sunglasses, or it's all equal and no one moves the needle. I just don't see it as like practically being an attractive option. And I just want to, one other point, they do this with audience targeting. We choose not to use it because we outperform generally. We run A/B tests against their audience targeting. They run their placements. We choose not to use it often because our choices are better, because we understand the humans we're trying to reach. And we run A/B tests, and sometimes we lose, but then we learn and we go. So I see these as like test engines, but I just don't see advertisers who need control and agency over their investment letting go of the reins and saying, sure, company, you do it. And even if they do, it doesn't solve the rest of the slice of the pie that Google and Pinterest and Snapchat and TikTok and digital display ads and Spotify and, you know what I mean? Like, Meta launching this is not a threat to most advertisers, because most advertisers are not dedicated to Meta. So yeah, I think a lot of thoughts.
Okay, yeah. So I'll try to react to a few different things.
Yeah.
One, I totally agree. I think maybe the most convincing part that you laid out for me in regards to something that's important for the middleman to exist is that competitive edge. The idea that if the same company is the place your ads get set, the place that your ads are shown, who decides your ads are shown, and how your ads are actually created, and then like the actual output of all your ads, if it's all one entity, how can any one company be confident that they're being taken care of? They're paying for someone to work for them.
Yeah.
So that's an important part. And it raises a few questions in my mind. Okay, well, so imagine the future where this is starting to get competitive with ad agencies. Like, it's like one important thing to remember here is that there is an objective metric that this stuff is going to be measured by, and especially in the world of sales. If we're just straight up talking like ads that are trying to get a sale, those ads can be measured against one another. If you have an ad agency creating ads and they purposefully say, that's my goal, that's my thing here, and then Meta does that, then they will.
Let me interrupt. I know what you're saying. It is very complex, almost never clear, the ROI or the ROAS, which is a more clear way to track it. But no matter how linear it is, it's almost never clearly agreed upon what the value of the ad is. So I just want to say that in real world terms, yeah, it should be. It seems like it should be.
I guess. So let me ask you this then, because I think that there's something important in this point that I'm like a little bit too ignorant of the space to speak to correctly, And so I think you'll be able to answer it. Like, no matter what, like agencies get hired and fired. There are agencies, there are companies that are happy with the success rate and the failure rate of what companies do for them, what agencies do for them. Like if Gooder is happy with their marketing agency, why are they happy? And are they confident enough that the ROAS is you know what I'm saying? Like, okay. So those same things will exist for this system in a way. Like if I'm a small business and I choose to shift from my small marketing local agency to the Meta's version, and my sales go up by 10%, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's so what I'm trying to get at. So let me ask you, the professional marketer here, like what is it that I'm trying to say here? There is a success rate that if Meta can offer same or increased amount of sales, the customer will know. What am I trying to say about this then? If you're just
most don't know. Well, only a percentage know. So that assumption that the advertiser will know. So there's two types of marketing in this conversation. There's brand marketers and performance marketers. Performance marketers are the ones who are trying really hard to know what their direct. I bought an ad. It cost me $4 to serve.
So let's stay in that world though. Let's stay in that world.
But that's only a percentage of the advertisers. So
that's fine.
But for those people, then you have complex multi-threaded pipelines.
Okay.
Right? And you have questions like a B2B lead is calculating their ROAS on lifetime value. So a B2B lead, when I advertise, sign up for Salesforce, and we sign up for Salesforce, and we think that the lifetime value of the average customer that signs up through Meta is $7,000 buy, and so we are willing to spend $1,500 in investment because the CAC is worth the LTV, right? Cost of acquisition, customer acquisition cost is below the multiplier we need it to be for lifetime value to pay off, right? So you have this formula, already not the simplest, but it's still just like this minus this equals something greater or less than, right?
That can be.
You can do that.
So, and again, every time we lay something on, I think it's important to then try and lay that onto the new system to think if the system can be good at that or is not or cannot be good at that.
Right.
Because that's what we're talking about. This entire process is made up of these sort of discrete chunks. And so the question is where in this stack of discrete chunks would AI fail? Yeah. Because if AI is A+ at each discrete chunk, it wins.
Well,
that's what I'm working with.
So then let's go back to the sunglasses example.
Yeah.
So now, okay, those companies only spend 20% of their budget on Meta right now, let's say, right? It's a slice of the pie.
This is, come on, intuit with me here, sorry. Yeah. Like, if Meta does it, everyone else is doing it. This is not about this year. It's not about this month.
Okay.
This is about Google will do it, and Spotify will do it, and so on and so forth.
No, agreed. But that's part of the problem. This is part of the problem. I'm not trying to say that to dodge it or minimize it. They definitely all are doing it. Right. They've done it with placements. They've done it with targeting, and now they're doing it with creative. In fact, they've been doing it with creative. Meta, when you buy an ad 6 months ago, they automatically opt you into their creative enhancements, which are supposed to improve the whatever your objective is for that ad. So
but let's remember, you do keep referring back to the past and like things that they've tried
and now they're saying we got a better system.
But Gen AI is the new and the thing that we agree upon is that generative AI is improving at a real fast clip, and that they're sophisticated users of these things.
I don't doubt that the video. So here's what I would say. I could see because let's talk about archetypes.
Give me timelines too, like timescales, like 6 months, 12 months, 5 years.
Five sunglass companies. They're each advertising on Meta and Google at the same time. And let's say Google also has a system that creates automatically and optimizes against a goal, right? Well, okay, so for Gooder, which is my favorite sunglass brand, so that's why I'm using them as an example, Gooder, their Meta AI finds that through all the millions of details and audience choices that they actually catch a wave with a rebel archetype. And so the creative that comes out is about going against the grain and they're you know what I mean? They channel the rebel archetype. And maybe the knockaround sunglasses also channel a rebel archetype in their content testing and their creative iteration, and that helps them sell, right? And these ads start looking more and more similar, which then flattens this competitive curve. At the same time, so I think that's very likely. What is working for one sunglass brand probably works for all of them, or in some form or fashion, or some set of them, right? And so you're learning more about an audience than the creative for a given brand. And I think that's likely to be what happens in that instance. Then take Google. At the same time, a different optimizing algorithm, tuned differently, weighted differently, goes out and makes a bunch of other assumptions, same number of variables, et cetera, and they find that the innocent archetype actually sells those sunglasses better. And so on Google, you're talking about the purity of the materials used in the design process, and that's how Gooder gets a 10% bump. Or really, let's be real, it's more like a 2% bump, like because they've already finely tuned with a lot of stuff, right? Or whatever bump.
Right.
But like you start diverging per platform, so you lose brand synchronicity, you lose brand adherence, and there's no way cross-platform that these guys are going to talk to each other to line that up. I mean, that would be a true innovation that's not on the radar, on my radar at the moment. So I just
Well,
see,
on that front, you could imagine some input from the company. Like the company starts to direct things. You know,
Yes.
this is our brand, this is our direction.
Yes.
Like that's not crazy. That's
Yes. No.
a tool set that companies will want to use.
That's my bet as what this does, right? It takes the calories needed to make videos and continues to reduce them. But the human in the loop no longer needing to spend the calories, the value is on the steering. And
But is that, see, all right, but the question for any agency, an agency, how big is an agency? What is an agency's fee? What is important for an agency to be there? Is that just the CMO's job or the assistant to the CMO's job at any company or whatever? Or do you need, and if you need an agency, what size of an agency do you really need? How
all
many
of that
people
is-
need to be? So again, my point here is at what amount of jobs will be eaten into? What amount of jobs in what time frame? How will it affect the space? Because to me, it really does seem like the obvious outcome, the obvious direction, and it's like any other industry. If and really, I think for me, this is where I'm convinced of. It's the discrete chunks. Every moment there's like a grouping of tasks that needs to be done, and AI can either do that well enough or not well enough. And it's just, it's an A or a B. It can do it great, or sometimes it's inconsistent. Maybe it's A sometimes, C sometimes, D, F other times, whatever. And so we are both convinced that Gen AI is getting better and better and better. And like the question is when will it all be A plus? To me, because and if it's all A plus and there still needs to be an agency, but what kind of agency? What does it mean for the agency at that point? And if it means like. Is it just a bunch of one-man agencies? And those one-man agencies will all be very AI heavy anyways, because they'll be using, if you imagine you ran nonfiction and you were making, 100 million revenue each year off of it, and you were running it alone, you would be using a bunch of AI tools to do a bunch of the work for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you'd be this one-man machine, and nobody else would have a job. And so like that's X amount of jobs eaten into, and and I don't know.
I think that's a
in
yes,
5
if I
years,
can make $100 million by myself representing that level of spend,
Yeah, you do
that's
it. Yeah,
my
I know.
margin. Like I would start there. In that scenario, I'd probably hire some people so
Where-
I could be on the beach while I make that $90 million.
My question for you though, I think here's where I'm trying to get, because again, I'm rambling my brain, I'm brainstorming out loud as I'm doing this, because I'm coming to my own conclusions right now in real time. So do you agree with that? The idea that every single decision or creation point here is like a discrete item, and that discrete item, AI is either good enough or not good enough, or consistent enough or not consistent enough currently. Is that one reasonable way to look at it?
I think good enough, no. I just don't think of it that way. I think so much subjectivity exists and so little clarity of true business impact makes it to the bottom line that the subjectivity is
Well,
what.
how are these companies judged then? I mean, I'm missing something here. What I'm missing is like there are endless agencies across the globe employed by or contracted by corporations, and these corporations hire them and fire them over time. And
Why do
not
they do
all,
that? Why do they do
that's
that?
that's what I'm saying. I'm missing something. So at some level, I have to believe that some of that has to do with the success and or failures of the marketing campaigns that these agencies are executing on for these companies. At some level.
At some level, I think you'd be surprised at how low that level is. I mean, like when we worked for YourPie, we weren't tasked with selling pizzas. We were tasked with making creative representations that the client specifically steered us towards. We created 3 versions that we thought were 3 ways we could make the pizza sale as attractive as possible in the places that those ads would be placed, whether they're print or digital. And then we deployed them in the world, and then we never knew if it worked. And if they had a good quarter, if they had a good season, we never knew if it was because of our ads or because of macroeconomic factors. And so the marketing department was funded up or down, sure, based on the sales during that period or a review of those sales. But like for us to say, good job, us, we're taking credit. I always say, like, be careful what you take credit for, because you have to take an equal side of the blame. If you're like, yeah, we sold all those pizzas, aren't we the best advertising agency? It's like, well, look, we understood your brand. We came in with creativity. We executed on time. We came in under budget. We got you all these things. We brought you ideas, and it went out there. And if it sold pizzas, that is awesome. We are so happy to have contributed to it. If it didn't sell pizzas, let's get to work and see if there's something we could have done or should have done or should do next time. But the clarity, that doesn't exist.
All right. So when I hear that, it makes me more convinced of my own point. What it makes me convinced of is that if there are these soft factors that when I hear, like, we understood the brand and we did this and we did that, all those things, those are the discrete chunks, right? When I hear that, those are things of like, okay, all right, can it output creative that feels like our brand? Did it come up with 3 interesting things?
10 marketing people in that marketing department on the client side will disagree with how good our stuff was, right?
Well, that's my point though. So like, if it's not objective, if there's so much more squishiness involved in the process, to me, when I hear that, again, I think of it's the ideation and the actual output that if Meta can show, or whoever creates the system, if somebody can show that they can come up with 3 really cool ideas that look good in presentations to a board, that they can slap created by AI on it, because that maybe there's some like cultural coolness about it, or maybe there's a backlash and it goes the other way, but like maybe there's some like hip points to be had because they've done something like that or whatever. And then like and at the end of it, it's like, okay, well, maybe we did it, maybe we didn't. I don't know. To me, it's like it makes it even less attractive to, and you could do all that for 10% of the cost using Meta's tools. Isn't that an attractive thing? Because if we used an agency, we wouldn't know what the outcome was anyways. We wouldn't know if they sold our pizzas anyways. So why are we giving 90% more fee, 90% of money onto their fee, instead of just trying the 10% thing anyways, and it gets us the same outcome? We don't know if it sold pizzas anyways.
Yeah. I mean, I think the other piece that is at the core of why the legacy, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not arguing that nothing will change.
Sure.
I've not seen a compelling example that Meta's tool will be the thing that.
It's a time question. No.
It's a time
remember,
question.
we have to live in that world when we're having this conversation. It is not about Meta's current app.
Right.
That doesn't matter.
Right.
In 12 months, in 24, in 5 years, where will this tech be?
Yeah. And the other factor that we hinted at but not dug into, the hierarchy and structure of the responsibility organism in a business Meta comes up with 3 ideas to pitch to a board. Who pitches that to the board?
Sure.
And
Who's responsible?
and the answer can't be someone outside. It can't be Meta. We can't blame someone outside.
No.
We are our own control. In fact, that's the word agency is so thrown around and overused.
Yeah.
But the idea,
Way overused these days.
Yeah, but the idea that we're a third party that takes and represents agency, a fiduciary responsibility almost to our clients, is the agreement, right? And
That's one of the most important parts. I think responsibility is a really interesting key here. But again, it's not a question. It's a question of how many jobs will it affect.
Yeah. Because there will be
That's key.
one-person marketing departments.
Yeah, 100%.
And
they're responsible, and they're the ones. But instead of 80 person, it's 1 person. And so that again, it's the same thing. How many videographers will there be?
Yeah.
How many music creators will there be?
Yeah.
Stock photographers will there be? There used to be 100, now there's 1. Or whatever. You know? And so it's the same thing to me. I don't know.
I see people like, and this is not an answer to your question. I'm not trying to dodge it. I see I have a talented videographer friend who is all about using these tools. And if I see his journey from today to the future, whatever that time horizon be, we can come back to the time horizon prediction, but his days are spent more and more directing and less button mashing,
Yeah.
directing the AI tools. And I go back to Mid-Journey being able to accept.
I live that with code, man.
Yeah,
Geez.
exactly. Mid-Journey accepting camera, shoot it like it was a Canon EOS. I don't know the Canon models and all this, but and so I think that's the direction from a kind of like blurry perspective. Time frame wise, I mean, it's also a macroeconomic pressure as to how fast things move, right? Let's say tariffs.
There's a cultural lag.
Well, cultural lag, and just like if we go into a steep recession in the next 6 months, if something really bad economically happens,
People are looking to cut costs.
you look to cut costs. AI is the ultimate cost cutting opportunity. And so like jobs will be disrupted faster when times are leaner, and maybe that is just an axiomatic way to think of it. But
and look at certain industries, maybe like post-COVID or whatnot, where they get leaner when times are worse, and then when times become better, they don't rebound to 100%.
Yeah.
They rebound to 70%, and
I
so you
think-
have a 30% net loss, and then that cycle happens again and again, and the tools are getting better than those years later.
Sam Altman said he believes, I think he said in the next 2 years, but it's definitely like a not 10-year time horizon, that 95% of all marketing jobs will be automated.
There you go. Yeah.
I think that should be rephrased as that 95% of current marketing tasks can be automated. And I think that number is pretty steep.
It's an important distinction.
The
that we could
tasks
be,
and the can be are 2 variables in there. Will be, that doesn't take the cultural lag into effect, will be possible or something maybe. But then I do think that the task change over will, because here's the other, like, all right, let's say an organization, I'm spend my days in larger budgets than I used to, but let's say someone has $10 million in their marketing budget, and they could save $9 million of that to make some, and this thought experiment is not like outrageous gains, but they could do it the same, right? They could get the same results. And sometimes they're better, sometimes they're worse. And we're not sure what variable it is, right? Because I think those things are all hard problems. But $9 million for a company that has a $10 million marketing budget, they're going to reinvest that $9 million in some other growth mechanism. They're going to reinvest that. They're not going to say, well, they shouldn't. Some might. Let's pad the CEOs with another the CEO salary, with another $9 million.
Do that.
Responsible organizations will reinvest it in new ways, and those new ways will be many, and many will involve marketing innovation, right? It will be like, hey, good news, we saved money on this. What could we do? And then new ideas and creativity come in to fill that void.
Well, one could, I agree with that.
Yeah.
One version could just be increased ad spend, right? If
Yeah,
you,
just
you know,
pass through the media.
Yeah, 100%. So
Well, and that's also what Meta wants to happen.
that's what they want. Then pay us more money to place those ads that we just created for you.
I am
Yeah.
I am just like in the weeds biased against. I opt out of so many of the state of the art suggestions from these platforms.
Yeah.
And I channel a good friend, good friend. I like to consider him a good friend. I haven't talked to him in a while, but Dr. Jeff Duvall. He's in Atlanta. He was he was a futurist for Coca-Cola in the 80s and 90s.
Wow,
Like
okay.
the coolest job, like just to be called a futurist is like nerd, you know, points.
Sure.
And he was explaining to me, I think he said like 88 or 89. I might be dating him a little more, so hopefully he takes it in good faith here. But he said there was these media optimizers that they would come in and pitch, and they're going to take all the variables that they can track from the outbound and inbound purchases and results, and they're going to put them all into this matrix math, and they're going to algorithmically optimize, and it's going to be the end of human targeting because the algorithms can do it. And I'm like, that's what Google calls Performance Max today. They launched it 6 months ago, and they made every promise. And every test I've done on Performance Max brings in fake spam results, results in lower cost per result. And every screen on Google's ad tells me that I need to be using Performance Max, and it's going to optimize my ads double digits for all my conversion objectives. And I can't trust, as an advertiser responsible for a lot of money, I can't trust what these platforms' motivations are. And now I'm years into a career that I've had to play defense against bad platform recommendations. So I am maybe already too biased to have a clear-headed answer on this question, because like until I see an automation in the wild that actually improves the results, I don't know. I don't know how to predict it.
I actually really like that framing, and I think one, it's good self-awareness. That's always positive, right?
Hey, thanks.
But two, I think that there is real value in the decades of experience that the perspective of using of working with these companies for that amount of time at this level is really helpful. However, I do.
It's still a new time. I mean,
Right. I think, like, I'm gonna keep thinking on this, and I think we should come to a close here. I kind of want to like wrap it up here, but we'll definitely continue this conversation. So, one way is I do think us in the not replaced, like being not replaced yet. I think we should. To me, the way to look at this is a framework, and a framework is. In my mind, the best one that I'm coming up with right now is this discrete chunk. It's like, and so the question would be, maybe where does that framework fail? But if the framework is kind of maybe the best framework to look at it, then I think trying to define those discrete steps of like, what if we could define the 18 steps that would make up the advertising stack in what we've been talking about, and then there would be a grade for each step, like. We think AI right now is great at image generation. We know that, you know, it is great at image generation. Image generation that's good enough for an ad, is my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, I would call it an A.
9 out of 10 of our advertising clients will not let us use those images.
That's fine. That's fair. But remember, this is opt-in to Meta's system, right? And it's a time question. And so there's a cultural lag. People are not comfortable with it. When will they become comfortable with AI? This is not about the moment.
Or will they? They might not.
Or will they? They might never.
Long term. It might be a long game. It might be a 50-year cultural lag.
Of course, I would bet that that's not the case, but that's not important. To me, it's a game, and at some point, if it's all amazing and all the other companies are doing it and they're making 100x their previous sales, every company's going to come along. So whatever, the time frame matters here, but that's just, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And so like, it would be, what are the discrete chunks and what is AI's grade on each of those discrete steps right now? And that would be a way of trying to pull our own biases out of it. It'd be like,
I like that. I think 2 layers. I think a good framework, a useful framework, requires 2 extra layers other than just grading each discrete chunk of the process.
Yeah.
One is the responsibility hierarchy.
I like that.
If we're creating creative,
Yep.
and who do we believe is responsible, or who would have to be responsible to remove the creative person from the responsibility?
Yep.
Right. We have a hired person for creative, and if someone above them who felt the need to hire them for their creative skills no longer is paying them to make the creative, is that person above them willing to take responsibility for the generative creative that they're trading off, right?
Yeah, sure.
And so like that needs to be factored in. I don't know how to. And the other one I would say is something around a cultural lag framework, which is probably like maybe separate but should be connected.
It could be cultural lag, but also regulatory interventions. Like, how does the government play into this? I mean, that's another aspect to it for sure.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Is we lived through a couple generations of regulation in the headline, and the one that comes to mind is influencer disclosure, right? Before the FCC came in and mandated that influencers put the word sponsored, hashtag ad, whatever, on there. And then also, let's not forget, all of the platforms invested millions of dollars to build features in their applications to support and regulate the influencer marketplace, because they saw it as a threat. If I can pay someone to give me an authentic ad separate from Instagram's ad platform, why would I pay Instagram's ad platform? And we can talk about why. That's a media strategy, whatever. But I do think I think if this is as disruptive as it aims to be and possibly could become, the regulatory aspect is can slow or disrupt that tremendously, and I would expect
it seems ripe for disruption in that.
Well, if every, I mean, TV commercial's not TV commercial, but if every ad has that was made with AI has a disclaimer while it's running, like a tobacco package or a hashtag sponsored, then we'll see if that matters, right? Like if people choose to ignore AI ads because the people in them aren't relatable, because like it's almost like a forced uncanny valley. They look real, but you know they're not. Is that going to optimize the 10%? You know what I mean? So the amount of unknowns is just what makes this really hard to predict. But I like your idea of the framework. And I think also the framework probably has to map to some timeline. Like a good framework has to map to some predictive timelines as well.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's crazy. I mean, this is definitely the longest live we've ever done, and I don't think we really even covered all the points that we could cover.
No.
We had probably also rambled a bit because this was us coming up with it off the top of our heads, just sort of talking about it for the first time fully. So I assume, and obviously, we have a lot to say, especially you have a lot to say on this, because this has been your, this is your industry for, decades now.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a good place to call it. And I don't know, honestly, maybe we even release this as a standalone podcast. It's not beginner at all. And I would want to put like a caveat and give an intro of like, this is a bit, but this, we could cut this up into its own piece of content because there's a lot in here. So anyways, if we had 0 of you at the beginning of this, thank you to all the negative viewers we have watching now after that nerdy breakdown of stuff. And so if you're here watching, thank you. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. All of it helps. And until next time, we'll see you later.